Hello, and welcome to this town hall on racism. I'm your host joining you, and I'm Carla Thomas of the Post News Group. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that's not often discussed, racism, and its impact on communities, families, individuals, in cities, statewide, and across this nation. It continues to rear its ugly head. And for Black people in particular, there's been systemic racism. Since a lot of us were brought here as slaves, or we were recategorized as indigenous people and enslaved, and we're the backbone of building this country. So today I have guests who will discuss racism, its impacts, and some solutions, and also to promote the fact that if you experience racism or you witness it, there's a hotline and resources that you can tap into funded by California. California versus Hate is a new initiative. And welcoming today, I have from the California Civil Rights Department, Mr. James Williams Jr., who will be joining us. Thank you for joining us today with our town hall, Mr. Williams.
Well, thank you for having me, Carla. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. Again, my name is James Williams Jr. I'm the community-based organization here at the California Civil Rights Department, and particularly the state initiative, California versus Hate. Just quickly, a little bit about my background. I've been with the state of California, public servant for 23 years, spanning anywhere from working at the Department of Healthcare Services to serving in the Schwarzenegger administration, just primarily in regulatory and compliance work. And now I've been with the Civil Rights Department about 14 months now, so time is moving fast. I'm a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill with a degree in English and a minor in political science. And so it's a joy again to be with all of you. So again, good afternoon. What is the California versus Hate Resource Line and Network? It is actually a non-emergency hate incident and hate crime reporting hotline and online portal established to support individuals and communities targeted for hate. We are the first state-run hotline in the nation, and many of our sister states have been looking to us to get their hotlines up and running. And just to share a little bit with you on that point, we're in conversation with states such as New York, New Jersey, Oregon, Washington, Rhode Island, Michigan, and Illinois. And we're happy to share with you that 2 weeks ago, Illinois versus Hate went live. So again, we're having that national conversation to collaborate to assist our sister states in implementing their hotlines. I'll briefly just share with you 3 major goals of California versus Hate that's designed to help individuals and communities targeted for hate. Number 1, we want to identify options for next steps after a hate incident or crime. We want to connect people targeted for hate with what we call culturally competent resources. And third, we want to improve the hate incident and crime reporting data. That's the most important, one of the most important pieces is that we need the data to, again, to inform our policymakers of what type of activity is really reaching the hotline and to enhance hate crimes prevention and response.
Well, that's wonderful, wonderful news. And this all began because there's just been an uptick in racism. And I think oftentimes a lot of people are afraid to report. They don't know what to do when they're the victims of racism or witness it. So it's great to have a resource to go to and a hotline.
It is, Carla. And we've adopted a philosophy called the there's no wrong door. In other words, Californians can get support when they reach out to government. One of the main key points that was stressed to me when I first joined is that we want to build trust with communities. And we know that the Black community, Black Californians, as well as Black Americans, are the most targeted for hate. And quite frankly, the data reflects and supports that position.
It absolutely does. I remember how the Black Lives Matter movement was built on the ongoing police brutality throughout the nation. From George Floyd to Trayvon Martin. Well, Trayvon Martin wasn't a victim of police, but it was still a hate crime, totally.
Yes, indeed. And at that time, this hotline, for instance, didn't exist. And we were not addressing the issues that were, affecting the Black community in troves, quite frankly.
Yes. I remember 10, 15 years ago, here in Oakland, when Oscar Grant, a young man, was basically murdered by a BART police officer. And we took to the streets and protested and reported on the incident. And you would think, with the ongoing protests and support groups and nonprofits trying to build a bridge, that we would maybe see a decrease in incidents, but it just increased. And I think the pandemic helped exacerbate a lot of it as well.
Yes. And out of the pandemic, actually the state responded to hate. And this hotline became in existence because of what's going on during the pandemic. And the AAPI community and the lawmakers here in Sacramento began to have that broader discussion. And they released resources to reach our community. So grants were sent to the Department of Social Services, got my tongue tied, Department of Social Services. Over $10 million was dispersed to reach all communities, not just the AAPI community. And so this particular program, California versus Hate, we received the Jabbar Hire No Hate Act grant, which is by the U.S. Department of Justice. And this is how we became the first state-run hotline in the nation to receive federal funding.
That is amazing. We need those federal dollars and resources. And, we always bear the brunt of, like you said, much of the racism. And we blaze the trail. And I'm glad to see that there was the anti-Asian hate, campaign as well that began during the pandemic.
That's right. Stop the hate.
We always open the doors for ourselves and everyone else.18.
And I see it run across the ticker. We want folks to be aware, to increase awareness, to report to the hotline, 833-8-NO-HATE or 833-866-4283. The hotline is open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. An online portal. You can report 24/7 and over 200. The online portal, you can report 24/7, but it's only in 15 languages. If you call the hotline, it's available in over 200 languages.
Wow, that's pretty powerful.
And California on our website, I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was repeating your website, California
versus. Yes, on the website there are many resources available to reach communities. We have a collection even for the African American community. So, for instance, for Taste of Soul, back in October, on October 19th, we had a collection of resources that specifically speak to the African American community. And so those translations in any of those posters can be found in 24 languages. They can be customizable. So if you want to say Carla is for everyone instead of California is for everyone, you can customize all of our assets to your liking.
I love it. This is fantastic news. We're in this society, we're often asked to, pretend that we're colorless, that color doesn't matter. But, our community seems to be so far behind or ahead in a lot of the negative statistics in the community. So it's really nice to see California get behind us and kind of identify that these are key issues and they're systemic.
Yes, we are. We're very grateful to have a governor who understands that hate harms communities. It causes lots of harm. And so he understood the importance of getting this hotline in place. And I'm just honored to be at the helm to lead the effort on behalf of California and the Civil Rights Department so that Californians, and particularly Black Californians, are aware of this hotline. And then I will share with my colleague, I'll share this quickly with you. It's a joy every day to do the work. It's not always easy, but when folks say thank you for being there, it means everything to know that we're here. And as you know, the racial text messages that have been going or permeating throughout the nation hit California. At least we were made aware last Friday. And so folks know that there now is a resource to report those incidents.
And, I like the fact that you could be connected to legal resources, mental health. And for those that don't want to involve law enforcement, you're not involving law enforcement unless you want to escalate it to that level.
That is correct. We anonymize everything. It's up to the reporter or the witness, if you will, to tell us if they want us to, share their information. They're not, obligated to do so. There are always, as you know, exceptions. For instance, if there's elder abuse, child abuse, or safety or imminent risk in the community of something of that nature, that's the only way that information would be then, reported out. If you're an immigrant, status doesn't matter. You still can report to the hotline.
Correct. Thank you so much, Mr. Williams, for your work.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm on a roll and I get excited because seeing the civil rights leaders as yourselves and the media here to amplify the same message that their support when you report.
Yes. And I'm also joined by another wonderful advocate, President Cynthia Adams of the Oakland NAACP, here located in Oakland. She is on the front lines. She's been an activist here in California for many, many years, taking leadership roles locally, supporting the state NAACP and the federal initiatives. And I'm so happy to have you with us today, Cynthia. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Carla. Thank you for having me to come in. And thank you, Mr. Williams, as well. I was listening to what you're saying, and it's so important that we know about this information. It's very important that we know that we have help on the way. It's finally here for us. And I do want to thank the governor as well for what all he have done for Oakland. And he have proved himself that he really cares about his state. He really cares about his state. So I just want to thank you and looking forward to working with you on the hate bill, because it's important that we know what's going on and pass it out to our membership peoples as well. And I will be putting it up on our website. Thank you for sharing that information. We need that very much.
Mr. Williams, would you happen to have any statistical data with regard to racism in your work?
We do have preliminary data from the first year. We launched that hotline May 2023, and I pretty much have what's memorized and I'll find it for you. But in the first year after launching the California versus Hate, there were 2,118 contacts reported to the hotline. Of that number, 1,020 were actual acts of hate that were reported. So that other half were seeking what we call care coordination service. To your point, Carla, legal, mental health, you name it. And actually there were over 118 types of care coordination services that folks sought. It could have been anything from seeking, CalFresh or healthcare, but they reported to the hotline to seek other services. Of the 1,020, 500 and a little over 500, I don't know that number off the top of my head, but over 500 were bias motivations. First category being, let me find that because I like to actually report correctly. Good, I had something up. 4 out of 6 that received of that number, the 1,020 that were the contacts that were actual reports of hate, 4 out of 6 agreed to follow-up care coordination services. And nearly 80% of California counties were represented. So about 46 of the 58 counties or so.
Wow.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a lot, isn't it?
That's a lot. And in the Bay Area, do you know that the areas that is based down in for African Americans?
Indeed. And what we also recently in the summer to sort of also respond to, again, just like when we're talking about the George Floyd or Rodney King incidents, we launched a billboard campaign and they were peppered throughout Northern California, including the Bay Area. So you may have seen them on the 880, the 580 interchanges. We also plan to release the billboards again. They're down, but we're moving towards putting up the billboards again because folks said, I saw that number and I called. And when there's a response of a hate incident, we want folks to know that we're here.
I think that's a great idea. I think it's a beautiful idea to release it again and put it in the areas that it needs to be in.
Yeah, it really helps elevate the atmosphere. If people really understand that the state is behind these initiatives and that discriminating based on color is not only crazy, but it's unacceptable.
Absolutely.
You can't control your color. There are a lot of factors that you can control, but with respect to color, you can't control that. And we've got to work together and wrap our hands around how we can, change this and reverse this. Because it's really hard to reverse something that's happened over 400 years. Mm-hmm. But this is a start.
That's it. We embrace. This is a good step towards at least opening up the conversation and allowing folks to relax and know that it's okay to have people who are different than you in the room. It's okay. And we're fortunate here in California. I actually tabled at the Native American parade this past Saturday here in Sacramento. And folks from there were 8 people from different states. And I don't like to look at the United States as red and blue. As a veteran, I served the United States and for all Americans.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you.
And happy belated Veterans Day.
Thank you. I accept it.
Yes. Yes.
Again, it's a joy to serve and to be there for others. And these folks were from states, if we want to say the red states, that were Idaho, Iowa, Montana, Nevada, who were saying, we don't have anything like this. And they were just, quite frankly, because of the post-election, we're kind of, fleeing for a little while, just to take a break, if you will. And we were able to share with those individuals about our hotline. And hopefully those are messengers that can take it to their governors and leaders to get hotlines up and running.
I'm glad you brought up the election because, we're still fresh off of this 2024 presidential election. And a lot of people are feeling some kind of way, rightfully so. We are one country, but we are kind of divided. And I remember going to Congresswoman Barbara Lee's last district download as our Congresswoman. And her, Amy Ellison, who's the founder of She the People, along with Congresswoman-elect Latifah Simon, all spoke very candidly about the outcome of this election. And while they're very hopeful and celebratory of Latifah's new path, and the fact that we were even able to have the option to vote for a woman of color as president, the outcome, was somewhat disappointing for a lot of people and women of color, the young people, and the message that it sent. I went to the NAACP's watch party that evening, and it was wonderful to be with community, that Cynthia and her team lead very, very well. But, we have to be honest about how some of us are feeling about the outcome.
And I want to piggyback on that, too, because I have 2 young, beautiful daughters, young ladies in their 30s and in their 40s. And this election was really hard on them. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of more young ladies in that age group, in their 20s and 19, first-time voters and everything. They're pained. They're in a lot of pain right about now. And I just think as an African-American mother, Black woman, I really think we need to come together and try to do something. I'm on this group every Sunday night at 5 o'clock for Black African-American women. But I really think we need to come together and do something because this is painful. This is very painful. And what I don't want to happen is they don't have trust in the system no more. Because when you see the election and you see all that red and just a few specks of blue, but you see all these peoples around the polls saying they voted. Who did they vote for? It wasn't for Kamala, Vice President Harris. So who was it? And that's what they're saying, especially first-time voters. So I really think that we need to pay attention to those young ladies and young men too. I'm not leaving them young men because a lot of African-American men did vote. And this is very painful. It is very, I know in my household, it was very painful. So I just think that we need to focus more on what's going on and educate our people more, because now they're saying the African American people stayed at home. I don't think they stayed at home. I really don't think they stayed at home. I don't know what happened. None of us know what happened. But we do know that we have a lot of them is in a lot of grief right about now. Still in grief. And I am as African American woman.
Absolutely. I feel the same sentiment. And that's exactly how Congresswoman Lee, Congresswoman-elect Latifah Simon, and Amy Allison of She the People, they were all expressing the grief, the emotion of it all, the messaging sent to young people. I mean, let's face, even Congresswoman Lee said you have voted for a convicted felon versus an articulate, well-educated woman of color who's worked through government her whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, we're just a nation divided, and it's a touchy subject. Nobody wants to be honest and really just tell the truth and be transparent. And I'm glad that we're able to have this transparency.
And then too, you look at she went to HBCU.
Yes, that's my alma mater,
where our ancestors built that college next to the White House.
Yes.
And you look at all of that. When I remember taking my granddaughter to Howard, both my youngest daughter went to Xavier, my granddaughter went to Howard. And I remember taking my granddaughter to Howard because her mom couldn't go, so I had to go in her place. And as I stood in the quad, I looked around, all the way around. I saw all those beautiful buildings, and I just broke down and I cried, because the feeling came over you to know that they did this for us. And we had the first one to come out to be nominated, made vice president, but was nominated for president. And it's just like, okay, we send our kids through all of this. We educate them. We tell them you can do this, you can do that. And when they see all of this like a slap in their face, because so many of them worked hard on that election, made sure people's got out and vote. They sent out little TikToks, little this, little that, to educate people's on voting. And it's just like it was a slap in our face, in all of our faces that voted for her. But we can't give up. We got to continue to fight. We got to continue to believe that there is a light in that tunnel. We might then make that light this time, but we're going to make that light. That light is, we're going to walk through that tunnel with that light and be able to see a Black woman, a president of the United States.
Absolutely.
And I pray that I'll be able to see that in my time. I pray that every day.
You will, Madam President Cynthia Adams, because Congresswoman-elect Latifah Simon is going to light up Capitol Hill. She is a bright light, and she is a warrior. And Amy Allison of She the People is going to continue incubating young women for that type of career path. So there's going to be a lot of light. So, Mr. Williams, do you have any additional comments you'd like to make? Because I know you have to leave early.
Yes, I was going to answer the question. I see a question for James. What happens when a hate crime is reported? What can we expect? I could add that California versus Hate Resource Line and Network, that's the official name, but we often say hotline for short. We're not connected to law enforcement. We're the California Civil Rights Department, and we're in charge with enforcing California's civil rights laws. However, if folks want to be connected to law enforcement, we'll work with them. Again, they're calling the hotline that is staffed by the 211 statewide network with trauma-informed agents. You may hear that terminology, or care coordinators who will stay with that individual as long as they need. So if they need to get a police report, for instance, we will stay with that person or that client for as long as he or she needs. So those are kind of the steps. So we're the civil side, and DOJ, California DOJ, and that's the criminal side.
Great.
That's good. That's good. That's really good. That is really, really good.
You know, it's really important to have these resources because it seems like, you know, we have the 60s and all the civil rights activists that just laid down the foundation. Martin Luther King, the Black Panther Party, you know, their home was here in Oakland, established. And then somewhere in the 80s, between the 80s and 90s, a lot of that work was dismantled. You know, it began with, I believe, Ward Connerly on the Berkeley board, UC Berkeley, and they just dismantled and voted against, you know, having not preferences, but, you know, pipelines of color to institutions for, you know, higher education.
You know what I really think too, Carla? You know, I was in education for over 40 years. And I really think when we was in education, we was able to keep it going. But so many of us retired. You know, we're in our 60s, 70s, 80s, someone's in their 90s. We retired. So the ones that retired, we moved on. And you have another group that really, we need to educate them more about civil rights, because so many people do not know what the civil rights movement means. A lot of people do not even know what civil rights is all about. A lot of people don't understand that if it was not for civil rights, none of us would be where we at today. Mr. William would not be sitting where he's at today. I would not be where I'm at today. You wouldn't be where you're at today. Because of the civil rights movement opened that door. And I think we missed the point because we don't talk about it enough to let people know where they really stand, why they in a situation that they're in. And then we have leaders, some leaders do not get up and let them understand either and talk about it. See, once you talk about an issue, because when I speak, I always talk about why I'm in the situation that I'm in and how I got to where I'm at today. Because if it was not for Dr. King and Martin and Selma, I saw someone was talking about the bus, the Freedom Fund bus. I saw that on there. But until we educate everybody really about the movement and the civil rights movement, we're going to continue to be lost. And that is so important for NAACP Oakland to be able to talk more about it, about the voting rights, about all of that. If it was not for the civil rights movement, we wouldn't even have voting rights. Vote, all that plays a part on there. We wouldn't have Afro-Americans in the White House. We wouldn't have Afro-Americans. I remember when Barack Obama ran, he came to the National Convention. He thanked the NAACP. He said, because if it was not for the civil rights movement, I would not be a president of the United States. So we, as Afro-Americans, we got to educate our people more, to let them know where they really, how we got started in the civil rights movement. And this is where you at today because of Dr. King. But explain to not just about Dr. King, it was a lot of civil rights leaders, especially in Mississippi, Alabama, and those areas, strongly in Mississippi. So we need to, I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Williams, we need to talk more and more about that so we can educate our people so they can understand what the civil rights movement means. And if they understand it, I really, really think that they will vote more, they will do things more in their community. But right now, they just feel they're free. I don't have to do nothing. I don't care. I can do whatever I want to do. But until you explain to them how you got here, I think we can move forward in another direction with another generation.
I agree with you. And you know, in the comments, somebody reminded me that in the 80s, there was the crack epidemic.
It was.
Where intentionally drugs were placed in our communities to further dismantle them.
But we could have did something about that in education. We could have. I was in education. We would have conferences every year. And I would always ask them one question. I would stand and ask one question. What are you going to do about the crack cocaine babies that's coming? What are we going to do about it? Because they're coming. They are coming. So what are we going to do as an Afro-American group? What are we going to do? Because we overlooked that. We overlooked it. We overlooked it in education. We overlooked it. The clergy's overlooked it. We overlooked that. If we had just come together during that time and figure out something what we could do to save that generation that we know was coming in, we will be in a better spot than we are in today.
You know, that's a really, really important point, Cynthia, because a lot of people that are damaged from drugs or being born into, you know, having drugs in their system.
In the DNA.
That you have educational issues, mental health issues. And we know if you can't get your education, that opens the door for incarceration or homelessness. So that's another reason why some of our youth and young people are overly incarcerated or outrageously homeless.
And that's why you cannot get jobs into your city. Because when jobs want to come into your city, what do they want to see? A good education system. Correct me, Mr. Williams. A good education system. They want the test scores to look good. They want the city to be clean. They want the buildings to look nice. And until you get that together, we fumbling.
You know, I had to explain to somebody when I had my son in private school. She happened to be a longtime public school educator, and she just kind of wanted to not correct me, but just, she was kind of like, why private school? And I had to explain to her that historically, public education was robust and well-funded. And white flight, when integration happened and white people left some of the metropolises, that funding went away with them. So that left our communities with less funding. And if you have less funding, that means the educators don't have a decent salary. So you can't get your Howard University graduates or Harvard, educators, and now they have the Teach America program, which is great to help incubate and give young people experience. However, if you've got a young kid from Iowa who's just a few years older than your teenager, that's a whole nother conversation there.
And they can't
in terms of the quality of education,
they can't deal with them.
And being relational.
They cannot deal with them. They cannot deal with them.
So there's a lot of factors.
It's a lot of facts, and this is something that we would really take a lot to clean up. But we can clean it up. I just think we need to come together and focus on us for a change. I really do. I think, like Mr. Williams was giving out about the hate crime, I really think we need to focus more on us and let us know that we love each other. We love each other. And I think that could bring us together. Because right now, we all over the map. We here, we there, we here, we there. But if we just come together and just say, we got to love our race.
Right.
We got to love our race. And even though they might be out of order, they might be out of control, whatever, we still got to love our race. Because once we love each other, we can all come together and make our community look a lot better. Because right now, our community don't look good. It really don't. We focus with everybody else. We join with everybody. Their community looks fine. You go to other cities and visit other cities, to conferences, and visit your family here and there. And then their streets are clean. You go to San Leandro is clean. You go to Haywood is clean. Alameda is clean. Berkeley, Emeryville. But Oakland is not clean.
It seems like, a lot of things are done by design and intentional. I remember growing up in San Francisco, and when I was a baby, my parents owned a donut shop restaurant right across the street from Marcus Books on Fillmore Street. And at some point, the head of redevelopment said, we're going to redevelop your entire neighborhood. You have to close your businesses. We're going to bulldoze it and rebuild it, and you can come back. And that was a lie. And that was Justin Herman's way of, displacing all those thriving Black African-American businesses.
Right.
And when you can dismantle us and break us apart economically and displace us, you can do anything. And then that leaves other people coming from these other countries, like you said, looking at our neighborhoods like, why are they broken? Well, you have to understand this was by design and intention.
Design.
And then and now there's a new word, gentrification now.
Right.
Like look at Oakland. There's some thriving areas of Oakland, but it wasn't to uplift and build who's already here.
And that's why we need to start, again, I repeat this again, we got to start focusing on us. We have to. Until we start focusing on us, and this is biblical. This is biblical. The biblical way say, clean up your own house before you try to go clean up someone else.
That's right. Until
we start cleaning up our people, making sure they're safe, making sure they're right, making sure they got a place to stay, place to eat, this and that, child care, education. Until we come together and do that, we can't help nobody else.
That's right.
It's time for us to do us.
Well, I'm glad we
saw that in the election. We have helped everybody else. Now it's time for us to come home and help us.
That's true. Well, I want to let people know to report a hate act, call 833-8NOHATE or visit CAVSHATE.org.
And it's it's very important. If you have any hate crime, please report that. Like Mr. Williams say, it's very important because we get a lot and we don't want to say nothing because we feel that it's nothing that's going to get done. But Mr. Williams was here to let us know there is something to get done. And
yes.
Mr. Williams, I would love to have you to come to one of our Saturday meetings next year so you can maybe to our retreat, so you can talk about this because this is so important that we know what to tell our next door neighbors, especially our seniors. Yes. Our seniors get a lot of things going on with them that they don't want to report. So I think it's time for us to wake up and, like the people say in the South, smell the coffee.
Yes. I can also share some more good news, if you will.
Please.
We worked this past spring with the Peace Officers Standards Training to release a training video to law enforcement agencies throughout California. That video was released about a month ago, and I'll pop it in the chat box in a moment. It was AB 449, hate crimes. Now law enforcement will be directed by the summer of 2025 when folks go, let's say, to report a hate crime, and the police says, we don't know what to do. The law enforcement now will say, here's California versus hate. Here's the resource, here's the hotline, here's the materials, whatever it is, and they will give that individual the information to our resource line, to the hotline. So that's ramping up. That I actually sent out to that email to over 400 of our partners and civil rights leaders, the Stop the Hate grantees, the 211 network, ensuring that they inform their local communities and local law enforcement, hey, here's the training video, because some of us have those inside connections and can make sure, for instance, that the chiefs of police get that message. And also I can share with you some more good news. Our department, the California Civil Rights Department, it used to be called the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, but California versus hate kind of helped that message. We're trying to help with the branding, if you will, of the name to Civil Rights Department. The governor changed it 2 years ago in July of 22 to the California Civil Rights Department, as I shared in the chat box, to more accurately reflect the overarching mission of the department. And so about a month ago now, time just goes so fast, you don't know if it's a month or a week ago, we received the Civil Rights Agency Award from the International Association of Chiefs of Police. Oh. And even, isn't that amazing?
That's great.
That is really great.
So we're happy about, again, the work that California versus Hate is doing. We also again, been very busy. A lot goes in the head, and you have to remember all that we're trying to ensure that people know that we're here. One of the reasons why I decided, I just text my contact to say I can stay on another till about 6 o'clock, because this is a very important discussion. And as an African American in the Post here, and to the Post, in respect to the Oakland Post, I'm glad that we have a voice in the government seat that is willing to work with our community so that we can get educated, like you say, come together and out of respect for one another, and do all we can to rebuild our community. We have to.
We got to rebuild our community.
Well, congratulations, and thank you for all the work that you and your department does, Mr. Williams.
Thank you. You're welcome, Cynthia, Carla, anyone else on the phone call. We have quarterly meetings with civil rights leaders. We also have quarterly meetings with city and county government leaders, so that they can learn all that we're doing. And again, they tell us, not we tell them. Again, we're building that trust. Tell us what you need. Where are the gaps in services? How can we reach out to the faith community? So those conversations are going on. We're looking at deploying a texting option feature for particularly for the youth, so that they can report to the hotline.
I wanted to respond to a comment. Somebody texted and asked if there was a national hate crime line.
There is a hate crime line, but does it offer resources? Probably not. It's just to report that there was, again, the U.S. Department of Justice, and I'll find that number if someone needs it, but it will be through the FBI.
Okay. And I'm really happy to hear everything that you're saying, because oftentimes people, again, they're afraid to report. It goes underreported. And also the police departments, if I'm not mistaken, didn't have to quantify their data based on color. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know what comes out of it. I'll be honest, I don't know that answer with respect to how DOJ, whether it's the federal or the state, are reporting, but some of the law enforcement agencies were not reporting. That is true.
Right.
But again, AB 449 is now directing them, hey, if you receive a report or an act of hate or an incident of hate, rather than saying that there's no place for these individuals to go, they're now being directed, again, from our Attorney General to report to California versus hate.
Right. And it's important to report, because as I've learned through the years, that if they don't have the numbers and the data, there's no dollars or funding allocated to the issue. Often we stay silent, or we don't want to make waves, or be a problem, or be perceived as just starting problems that we just don't report sometimes.
Yeah, we want to ensure that the hotline, that people feel safe to report, because oftentimes they don't trust law enforcement. So another piece that we've added to the work that we're doing is to go to law enforcement events. For instance, in August, we went, we went to National Night Out Day just in Richmond. And we partnered with the police department there and their community relations team to, again, increase awareness about the hotline. And I'll tell you this, there were about 3,000 people there.
Oh my
on
God.
that Saturday.
It
was huge. And
and
I'll be honest, I got to thank you from the chief of police. I was like, wow, who does that, right?
Wow.
But
that was great.
It's a joy to know when our local leaders are acknowledging that the work is important, and they're responding in that effort. And again, they're joining the quarterly meetings. We have I know Walnut Creek, Ventura, the chiefs of police are on board.
That's great.
That's good. That's really good. Well, Mr. Williams, the state, the Oakland branch this year at the National Convention, we wrote a resolution for hate crime for African American community. And it's the same thing basically lined up with what you're about to hate for the cause. But we wrote the resolution for the national. And what happened, we wrote it for the state, and the state passed it. So we took it to the national. Our Guy Bryan, he's our general counsel for the NAACP Oakland chapter. So he wrote the resolution, and we was able to get it passed through the national. So now we will have a national resolution for hate crime. So we will see where that would go. But we was able, out of Oakland, we was able to get that bill passed to go to the national about hate crime for African American in the African American community.
We would love to post that on our website.
I would send it to you. I would send you the hate crime.
Please
bill.
do.
I would send it to you.
Thank you, Cynthia. We have currently 2 of our contracted consultants, the NAACP State California-Hawaii Conference, as well as the Pasadena branch, are contracted partners with us.
Yeah, I'm on the board. I'm on the state board.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yes, we really focusing basically on that. We had a conference. At the conference, we talked about that this year. So we had the national president was there, Derek Johnson, and he really focused on a lot about the hate crime because it's getting pretty deep in our community. And like I said, a lot of us do not report it. And a lot of them don't understand what a racist comment is as well. And I think that is something too that we need to educate our race on, to let them know what is a racist comment, because a lot of them don't know it. They just think it's something being funny, stuff like that, but it's really a racist comment towards you or towards your family or towards your child. So it's very important that we educate them on that as well.
Yes, it is, Cynthia, and that could be considered a hate incident, a racial comment, slur, right? And so when folks are casually throwing out the N-word or something, that causes harm.
Where you say it, I can say, no, you can't say that.
Absolutely. We couldn't say that word in our household either.
We can say that, period.
Never.
We can say that.
It's an ugly word.
It's a very ugly word. So I think
like a weapon.
We just need to educate our community a little better and keep having these events, Carla. And I think if we keep doing that and coming together, we can change a lot. A lot can change.
Yes,
and I think this election really opened our eyes up. I really do. I have got so many calls and said, we got to focus on us. It's time now. It's time. So it's been time, but sometimes something have to happen big to make us want to really do it and change our mind, our hearts to do it. So I think now we will be coming together more than ever. Now we do. I feel that we will be.
I agree with you.
Cynthia, I just saw a comment from one of your chapter members, Dondria, saying that California actually has the most hate groups within it. Isn't that something? California, you think liberal and, more we are together. But apparently they have a lot of hate groups right here.
A lot of them I hate. A lot of them are in that.
You said a lot of what?
A lot of the groups that you're saying is so liberal and this and that. A lot of the liberals are like that too. So it's a lot. It's a lot. Yes, it is. It's a lot. It's a lot.
So, I went to Howard, so I spent a lot of time on the East Coast and I visited the South. And I noticed that, color and racism was a little more overt on the East Coast, but it's more covert here on the West Coast.
It is. It's hid. They hide it.
Would you both agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I was born in Jersey. I agree with you. And
yeah, I agree. They hide it. They hide it. Okay, they definitely hide it.
And then when I went and visited Chicago, I just really saw how the whole city was divided. It's almost like the railroad divides, the North from the South.
Well, in the South,
hello.
they're racist. Oh, that's Reverend
Yay!
Brown.
Let,
Because
let,
in
Reverend
the
Amos
South,
let me,
Brown.
you know
Mr.
they're racist in
Brown.
the South.
good
But
evening, good evening, good evening to
good
you
evening,
all.
Reverend
Good evening.
Brown.
Good evening.
How you
Welcome.
doing?
I'm very well, thank you. I have a pressing schedule here. I won't be able to stay long, but let me make it clear that there is a file and a record of these hate crimes against blacks. Several
Mm-hmm.
months ago, our state attorney general released this report that indicated that when it comes to hate crimes in California, black people are at the top of the list.
Sure did.
That's documented.
Sure
That's
did.
number one. And number two, you can report to the police department because they have to report it. But what has happened many times, we do not follow through.
Mm-hmm.
And as one fighter said many years ago, he or she who will be free must strike the first blow. And the thing that black people have to do is to have, as Jesse Jackson say, an insult tolerance level that is high and not low. And not let people just say anything or do anything to us. And we not stand up and in a strategic, rational, peaceful way, fight back. That's what we have to do. Now we have the situation where this inauguration is coming up. And some have expressed the opinion, the position that we need to go there on 15th and protest. We don't need to waste our energy with that.
No.
It's wasted time, wasted energy. I repeat, what we need to do is to hit the ground, run, bringing people to our community, bringing people to our black churches, the right black church.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I say right, because
There
many
you
of these
go.
churches only are talking about heaven and personal salvation.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to liberation, social justice, they're quiet as a mouse, tiptoeing across cotton.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need to do is, first of all, go back to the right black church where there's a holistic gospel that's preached that deals with the spiritual issues and the social issues. Number two, all of us should be contacting 10 persons in our network. 10. And we can save the day. And they get another 10 that they speak to. And as we go through these dark days, we can turn the light on. If we start in our churches, in our community-based organization, teaching our children the fundamentals of reading. We don't read.
Mm-hmm.
And as Du Bois said, we ought to read worthwhile literature. He said in 1953, a nation is not measured by the number of billionaires that it has, but to be measured by the quality of its educational system, the quality of its health care system, and how many people can read and read, I repeat, worthwhile literature and books. We must know. The prophet Hosea said, my people perish
Without a
because
lack
of
of.
a lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
To have knowledge means gathering the facts and going beyond just getting the facts, but having the wisdom to interpret the facts and know how to apply them to a good end for the welfare of all the people. And other things we must do is, as Black people, stop being rugged individualists. That's what the oppressors do. We have to be collected together, connecting with each other. Excuse me. We cannot be these me, my, and I folk. We got to master that pronoun we the people. And the first time we have the occasion since this election to do that is on January 15. Come together in our churches and our community and not spend any money going out to some demonstration. We don't need to be going out where we're around some of these people who are violent, evil, and don't respect our humanity. So that's my appeal to your audience. It's time to organize. It's time to love on each other. And it's time to use our minds, our heads, for more, as Grandmama said, than a hat rack. And we can do it, but we got to hit the ground doing it. I repeat, and do it intentionally. Those who are listening to you this night ought to hit the ground tomorrow, thinking about what we are going to do as a people, and not what they have done to us, are going to do to us. Don't be aware of that, yes, but don't spend a whole lot of time and energy fretting over them, but be engaged to make a difference.
Well said, Reverend Brown.
Well said, Reverend Brown. As always.
Absolutely.
As always.
And historically, it's been the church that's been the center of our movements, our knowledge, our education, in advancing, our community.
I would say some churches. Some.
Right.
You're right.
Facts. The Joint Center for Political Studies in Washington, D.C. discovered the other day a study, getting the facts, only 3%, 3% of the Black churches were with Dr. King.
That's right.
A lot of folks talk back there, only 3%. The other 97% were scared, or they were brainwashed by this white, oppressive, evangelical churchmanship that had nothing to do with Jesus.
Wow.
But about power, trolling people, and about maintaining the status quo. So we got to have the right church. I'm not putting down anybody what they believe, because in America, we are promised in the Constitution freedom from religion and freedom of religion. But we got to realize a lot of this stuff that's supposed to be about Jesus and this holy thing and sanctified, no, it's not authentic. It's masquerading, parading, but not dealing with what Jesus stood for. Jesus stood for love. Love. And what is love? Wanting the best for the beloved. So people cannot say they love you and they respect you if they don't desire and work for the best for you and others, not just for themselves. And Jesus said, he who would be the greatest must first be a servant. That's Jesus' model of leadership. Not holding a title without a testimony of what you've done. Not sitting in a seat and you haven't given any service. That was Jesus' image, mark, idea, picture of a true leader. But in America, what are basically those people looking for in Congress, wherever they are? holding seats of authority. They're looking about how they're going to keep that seat and how they're going to misinform people to keep them down so that they won't come out for them to get them out. And that's why, in great measure, this election was lost to us and Sister Kamala Harris. People told lies.
They did.
They people. They made efforts to keep them from voting.
They did.
Dr. Martin Luther King said, the shortest route to freedom is the voting booth.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had too many young people who just don't know the history, who haven't read, haven't discovered the truth, who make the comment, no, I don't need to vote. It's not going to make a difference. But they don't realize it does make a difference. How so? Well, if this average thing happens to somebody who's in trouble, and we do get in trouble more than others with the law in our communities. But even if you had to go to court on a trumped up charge and it ends up a jury trial, what happens? You will discover that the jury is chosen from the voting list.
That's right.
Voting list. So I say to all of these young people, Ray and Samantha, Jamal, you better stop this nonsense about I'm not going to vote. Because when you don't vote, you set yourself up for the trap of an unjust, exclusive jury of people who will not have your best interests at heart.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Amen, Reverend Brown.
Amen.
That's what I was saying
Thank you, Reverend
earlier.
Brown.
We got to educate them about voting because they don't know the history of the civil rights movement. No one taught them because they wasn't taught, so they don't know. They don't know why it's so important to vote. They don't even have a clue why it's so important to vote. And until we teach them and educate our community, like you said, it's not going to do us any good. We got to educate our community. That's the bottom line. And I thank you, Reverend Brown, for always bringing that out because we got to learn how to love each other so we can educate our community.
Well, one thing I love about the NAACP, and one of the things it does best, is that it loves on our young people. With your programming, the AXO program, the NAACP turns out brilliant young minds.
Yes, we do. We really do. I have to say that we do. We really do, but we got to educate more of them. Like Reverend Brown said, we got to educate the Rays. We got to educate all of them, everybody, so they can be able to enjoy going to vote. Because it's a joy to vote on that day. But they don't feel that. They don't feel the joy. So we need to educate them more so they can get the joy that we have when we go vote.
I mean, we stand on the shoulders of my fraternity brother, Congressman
like
John
Brown,
Lewis.
We stand on his shoulders.
Yes.
You know, he made the way for us to be able to do the things that we need to do, and the way he keep us up in the Bay Area. He keep us going in the Bay Area and keep us informed and keep us educated. And we got to come together, you guys. We got to do that.
Okay, well, I must excuse myself. If there's another opportunity, I will join you, but I must go.
Thank you so much, Reverend Brown.
Thank you, Reverend Brown.
We love and appreciate you.
Good to see you.
Good evening.
God bless.
God bless you.
Cynthia, as I was saying about educating our youth, you and the programming that your chapter offers has just been wonderful. To see so many of the students go to the national competition in Vegas was amazing. So
Yeah.
the work that you and Patrice do,
Axel.
and Natrie and Dondry is just amazing.
Yeah, Axel was one of my programs that I really didn't want to do. I always tell everybody it was just like put in my lap, but I'm grateful that it was put in my lap because we have produced so many powerful young men and women today. We have Justin Jones. I'm pretty sure a lot of people know Justin Jones. He's the young guy out of Tennessee. He's a congressperson. Justin came up on the Oakland NAACP Act. So we have a Miranda Henry. We have so many more. Linnell Lewis. She's outstanding. It's just so Valeska, I can't pronounce the last name at this moment, but Valeska was the first president for the Oakland Money Youth Council. All of them was just outstanding and doing outstanding jobs now. So it can be done, but they was taught how to go into leadership. They was taught that. They was taught how to go and speak, and Carla's son as well. They was taught how to speak at the conferences and get on the state board and get on the national board and just do things with their life. And I'm proud of all of them. I'm proud of what the NAACP of Oakland branch is doing. You can join us. We love to have you. But I'm just proud of what we're doing and what we can do in education.
And what's your website, Cynthia, with the Oakland branch?
OaklandNAACP.org, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look it up. Let me send it to you.
Awesome. And Mr. Williams, can you tell us your website as well for your Department of Civil Rights?
Absolutely. It's CAB like Victor S hate.org. CABShate.org.
And our viewers and anybody that clicks those links are in for all sorts of information, continuing to educate you and update you on the many issues that we tackle and face, and that there is help, there's community, and there are resources. And again, if you are the victim of a hate crime or a victim of racism, or you witness a hate crime or racism, please call the number 833-8NOHATE or visit CAVSHate.org.
Carla, the website is, like I said, Oakland, NAACPOakland.org.
I put it in the chat box for you, Cynthia.
Thank you. The Oakland NAACP has been so powerful. I've been a member for several years, and it really supported me and my son as he was growing up and becoming a teenager. And also, Cynthia, you did so much local advocacy because there have been so many complications with the city of Oakland. The recall of the mayor, the recall of the DA. And I remember you and we really fought long and hard for Police Chief LaRon Armstrong's position to be reinstated.
Yeah.
So I want people to know, even though there's a lot of police brutality and, sometimes the cities and metropolises are divided, that there are those of us that support our law enforcement.
It is.
And Chief LaRon Armstrong was amazing. 25 years of service to this city, and then poof. For no good reason.
Well, first of all, he was from Oakland. He
grew
up in Oakland.
Yes.
He had lost a brother. His oldest brother took gun violence.
Yes.
He grew up in Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
He went to school in Oakland from elementary, junior high, and high school.
Yes.
So you had a homegrown person that everybody knew, everybody loved, everybody respect. And then you have someone coming in as mayor, did not want to sit down and talk to anybody but the people that she felt comfortable in talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And the city was going bad every day. It was just people's cars were getting broken into. People's houses was getting broken into. They was getting robbed everywhere. I just found out yesterday, that a pastor from Glad Tidings Church in Oakland, he got robbed. He got robbed by gunpoint. and we had to take him to the hospital. So it was a
Wow.
lot going on, and nobody was like paying attention. It's like they was overlooking the city, and you didn't have a police chief. You didn't have, things was just happening, and
Yeah.
no one wanted to listen. No one wanted
Mhm.
to listen to the people. They only want to listen to people that make them feel good. And you can't always listen to people that want to make you feel good. You cannot. You always need to, and I mean, leadership role. Am I right, Reverend? Mr. Williams?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to listen to people that even if you don't agree with them, just listen and see what they have to say. But she didn't want to listen. She didn't want, and not only just the NAACP, it was a lot of people, organizations, community organizations that she did not want to listen to. So in process of that, that's what happened. Because like Reverend Brown just got through saying, a lack of knowledge, a city would perish. And no knowledge, no knowledge, and no leadership skills at all. So you got to find the next go round. You got to be able to get someone that really knows about Oakland and really knows about leadership role, and to be able to bring businesses into Oakland, be able to bring jobs back into Oakland, and you get a good person that can give jobs and know how to bring jobs into Oakland. And I think Oakland could strive in that way and could do a lot better. I really do. I really do. But it's all cause working together. If we could just all work together. It's not about your race. It's not about that. It's about working together. And do not ignore your voters. You don't ignore the people that put you in office. You really don't. You can't please everybody. No, you cannot. But you cannot ignore them as well. You cannot ignore them.
Correct. You know, it seemed like when the chief of police lost his job, it seemed like there was just a negative spirit that overtook the
It
city,
did. Like
and
a
then the
darkness.
uptick in crime.
Like a
It's
darkness.
like it begins at the top, and I think
Well,
that's why people are so concerned about this election. That
it
if you have
is.
a
It was.
leader
It was
that's
like a
going to
darkness.
divide, hmm?
Yeah. And see, the problem, Carla and Mr. Williams, was she fired the chief, and we wrote a letter to her several times to ask her to reconsider and hire him back, and she wouldn't even think about it. She said she didn't trust him. Well, what did he do so bad to you that you didn't trust him? You had just got in office, and when you fired him, I understand. I don't know. I have to go by what I understand what people said. She was in D.C. at a party, so she called him, I assume, and laid him off for I think a couple months, and then she fired him in February, Black History Month.
Mm.
Black History Month. So it shows that she really didn't care about what the voters were saying about, and I really don't think she understands the NAACP. I really don't. I don't think she know about civil rights movement. I don't think she understands that if it was not for the civil rights movement, she would not have been here and in a position that she's in. And if she had just understood where she want to talk to people, other people that not try to make her feel good about you doing a great job and all that. She might was doing a great job, but she was not doing a great job with the community. And it was enough with them. And they
Well,
did what they had to do.
I can say here at the state level, I know our governor is committed to ensuring that his cabinet and his leaders are held accountable to the
He
highest
is.
standards. Yes.
He is, because when I met with Governor Newsom on another organization I'm in, and we wrote an op-ed letter because it was so bad, Mr. Williams. We had to do something. People was telling us we had to do something. So the board, we did vote on it, because you have to vote on before we just put things out. You just don't go and put things out. We have to vote on it with the officers and the executive board. And we voted on that op-ed letter. The governor told me that you had a lot of guts. You had a lot of guts to be able to come out with that op-ed letter talking about
Mhm.
what's really, really going on in Oakland. And that's why he was able to bring in the the CHPs to be able to help Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
We wrote a letter to him. We showed
Right.
Bob Harris and Bishop Bob Jackson.
Mhm.
They went to Sacramento because I couldn't go at that time. I was could not make it. So they went to Sacramento. They showed the governor the 10-point plan that we had came up with. We came up with a 10-point plan for Oakland for public safety. And I would send that to you, Mr. Williams, and to you, Carla, as well. We
Right.
came up with that 10-point plan.
I
And we
remember.
told the governor, this is the plan that we came up with Oakland. So he looked at it and he came up with the 10-point plan itself. So we was able to work with him and he was able to work with us. Even though the mayor wanted to take credit for it, that's fine. We're not tripping about him taking credit. Only thing we wanted to do was just make sure Oakland was safe, and he was able to do that.
Well, what I'd like to say about that is that when there's a climate of chaos in a city and its leadership, crime goes up, businesses close, businesses leave the community, and that all contributes to heightened racism and pointing fingers and blaming one another. And we're further divided. So everything that you're saying folds into this issue of racism. And hating on one another.
You're right, Carla. You're right, because the city council leaders, they didn't want, some of them cooperated with you. Some of them didn't because they felt that they didn't want to go against the mayor. You have to listen to your voters. It's your voters you have to listen to. And if you don't listen to your voters, the voters recall the mayor. The voters did that.
Right.
The voters did that. So they wanted her gone. They went out, they got the signatures, and I didn't even think they could do it. But they did it because the people was tired. They wanted something, they want something different. They want something different. And they want someone that actually can respect the voters that did the recall.
Right.
They want that. They want someone that actually respect the recall. Because if they didn't respect the recall, they can't respect the voters. So it's important that we understand that the voters means a lot. That's why it's important to vote.
Right.
Because your voice means a lot. Because you couldn't sign the paper if you weren't a registered voter. And if you was not a registered voter or person that live in Oakland, you couldn't sign the recall paper. So that's what it's all about. Trust me.
So, Cynthia, you and Reverend Amos Brown brought up two very important factors. One is respect and one is love.
It is.
Yeah.
And when you combine the two, I mean, which brings me back to why have so many of our teams divested and left our city?
That's right.
How does that make people feel?
This is my feeling that I have, Carla, why they left was the simple reason I feel that they left, because you have to have your city at large is the person supposed to actually, I believe, and I'm just talking what I believe. Your city at large is your person supposed to be bringing in business and stuff into your community, bringing in business, bringing in business and also for jobs for people to have as well.
Yeah, commerce.
Right. They supposed and you're supposed to be able to do that. But if your city at large person is not strong enough to do that, to make deals, to make things happen, they leave. And they go somewhere else that next person in that next city is going to do that. Look what happened in Sacramento. The A's went to Sacramento.
Right.
So we got to be able to understand that what's really, really happened. And when we put people in office, that they actually know what they're doing. Because you got to have someone that really, really know about public safety. Public safety is so important. So important. We can't constantly holler about defund the police. You got to have public safety. If you do not have public safety, your city is going to go down. You're going to lose everything.
But then that leads me back to the racism piece. People blame the youth of color on the disruptiveness.
Right.
It's all related. And, just like in San Francisco, in the Bayview, the Coliseum where the teams played was in a Black community.
Mm-hmm.
And they relocated to another community that was already extremely wealthy.
Right. So they went there.
So you got to wonder, what are the motives here?
So
Are you about
this
building
go
up the
around,
community?
that's right. You need someone in there that really, really know how to manage the budget, really, really know how to manage the city, really, really know how to talk to the community.
And be educated on the fact that Black people are not to blame for all these issues and problems.
No.
It is an economic issue and a systemic issue. I want to really get that point across.
No, we're not to blame.
And you know who best articulated that was Dr. Julianne Malveaux. She always tied in how it was an economic issue. And then that also leads me to another person I truly respect, Dr. Cornel West, who said, with respect to this elections, you can't lead the people if you don't love them.
No, you can't. You cannot.
And I'm not.
It's all about love because we was taught love in our families. I'm from the rural area of the South, and that's all we knew was love. We might not have nothing, but one thing we had in that household was love. And that have left our families.
And that's what makes you a great servant leader. You, Reverend Brown, and Mr. Williams.
Right.
I come from nothing but love, so I only operate in love.
Yeah,
I call myself a city mouse, country mouse. I was born in Newark, New Jersey, and from age 12
my God,
on.
you was born in New Jersey.
Oh yeah. So I got the best of both worlds, and so I may say yes, ma'am, or no, sir.
Yeah. Well, I was born in a red state. So you can imagine, okay.
Yeah.
So, but we just have to focus on our community.
Yes.
And focus more on what we can do to come together and have more talks, more town hall meetings about, and be honest.
Yes.
President Cynthia, you said it best. Like love is the opposite of hate, isn't it? So that love, you've been putting central theme as the moniker tonight. It's the opposite of hate.
It's also hate.
And
be honest,
and adding the funding to help solve some of these problems is awesome. I'm loving what the Civil Rights Department is doing. I'm loving this new state initiative. And I also love to hear, like I report on all the good news going on, like for instance, how NBA players and legends, Jason Kidd and Jaylen Brown, have established two organizations, Boston Exchange and Oakland Exchange, and want to raise $5 billion for Black businesses across the nation.
That's great.
Wow.
Isn't it?
Beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Because if you can build a business, if you can increase home ownership, if you can fund your nonprofits that are bridging the gaps and disparities in our community, we can be healed and become whole.
It's
For our viewers today, I want to remind you that if you experience racism or a hate crime, please call 833-8NO-HATE or visit cavshate.org. And join resources with the NAACP branches, either in Oakland, San Francisco, or your local chapter. And keep yourself informed, educate your children, your grandchildren on the resources and entities such as the California Civil Rights Department, where you can really, really get a foundation on what's available to you and how to advance our people, our community, and our cause. And as always, African Americans and Black people are the foundation for these movements. So this Stop the Hate means stop the hate against Jewish people, against Palestinian people, against Black people, Asian people, whether it's your gender or your sexuality, it's for all types of hate. The Black community is a part of everybody. Everybody is us and we are everybody. So let's all come together. I want to thank our viewers for all your comments. Thank you for allowing us to have an engaging conversation and for your participation. I want to thank Allie Whitehurst and Dondria Morgan for all your comments. And I want to say Mr. Williams, I so appreciate you and your work and on that great news. And Cynthia, you know, you're my sister in Christ. I love you. You and Reverend Amos Brown are award-winning leaders of the NAACP. And I have a love for Reverend Amos Brown because he's over the church that one of my great-grandmothers was a cornerstone of, Olivia Cook. I'm a native San Franciscan.
That's a blessing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a blessing. With Dundra Morgan and Dr. Whitehurst, they are part of the Political Action Committee of the NAACP.
And they do a wonderful job.
They do a wonderful job.
They teach everything about the craziness of ranked choice voting.
Right.
And all the things that we don't understand about that.
Yeah.
And they host meetings over and over again. Oh, and I see my friend Jackie right here, my publicist buddy. Thank you, Jackie, for joining us.
It's something that we really need to think about next.
And Jackie's an activist too. She's not just a publicist. She's a filmmaker. She's awesome.
Beautiful.
Great.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad I postponed things. I pushed things back because this just felt like I needed to be in the moment with you and to share and to embrace all that we are about. It's just important. I'm a brother in Christ.
Yes, thank you for being a
appreciate
brother in Christ. With Brother Williams. Thank you for being a brother in Christ.
Amen. My brother in Christ, my sister in Christ. This has just been a blessing, and I want to thank you so much. Thank you for staying, Mr. Williams, and your sacrifices for being able to stay. And Cynthia, as always, you know, you are just awesome. You're an awesome leader. You're an awesome woman. You're an awesome Black woman. You're an awesome person in our community. And I'm so glad that you have programming with the NAACP that enables you to clone yourself. And keep advancing our community. And I want to thank our wonderful engineer, Mr. Norman Rich of the NNPA, who has assisted with producing this segment. I want to give love and respect to my publisher, Mr. Paul Cobb and Gay Cobb, the owners of the Post News Group. I want to thank our business manager, Brenda Hudson. And I want the world to know that the Post News Group isn't just the San Francisco Post, but it's in the Oakland Post, but it's the Berkeley Post, the Marin Post, the South County Post, which covers Silicon Valley, the Stockton Post, the Vallejo Post, the Richmond Post, and we even have El Mundo, which is translated in Spanish. So we thank you for your support. We thank you for continuing to, you know, just build community, build capacity. I was recently at Thurs conference where they support faith-based and nonprofits with keeping their organizations robust. And it's always beautiful to see the strength in our community. Like Chris Chapman with Kingmakers was there, talking about how his nonprofit has gone from a zero budget to millions of dollars. And he's building he's acquiring 200 acres for more programming. So that's going to help a lot of young Black people to, you know, live their best lives in spite of racism and racial injustice and the climate that we may be coming into. So again, join your churches, support your churches, link arms with the NAACP, educate yourself on the California Civil Rights Department, and read. Teach your kids and the youth to read. Print is not dead, and we're also online. I'm Carla Thomas, your global features journalist, and I want to thank you for all who joined our podcast. God bless you and keep you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.